This is the AccuAir E-Level ECU, and first fire up. Basically all plug and play, and if you're upgrading your system and you have one of these V4U AccuAirs, you can just use the pigtail to connect right into the back of this. This is the main harness, this plug here, and that has the power, the remote on from your key switch, and the ground. Over here, this is the connector for your 4 sensors. This one right here on top, this is for the handheld controller that takes the place of the old mechanical one that I had. And as you can see, it when it's on, you have a nice blue color, and actually you can change that. I mean, the whole spectrum. It's RGB. If you're fancy and want to match the color of your setup, your interior, your trunk interior, wherever you want to mount this, you can change the color and make it match. It does not come with a bracket, but I actually bought this off of eBay. There's a guy down in Florida, I think, or he might be in Tennessee. I can't remember. He makes these brackets, and I was thinking about putting it there. I'm going to connect to the AccuAir E-Level. And from everything I read, we need to, just like it says, update required. Firmware needs to be updated in order to use the app. Firmware will take up to 10 minutes. Note, this update will remove CVT functions from your e-device. If using Endo CVT, that's the air tank that AccuAir makes that has the air compressor inside of the tank. And I do not have that. I've heard nothing good about those tanks. I won't say anything bad about them. I'm going to confirm, and we're going to download the software. Okay, we're at 97%, 100%. So we will try it again. It is connecting. It says firmware update needed, and we're doing this again. Okay. So 30 minutes later, I got all of the updates done. So apparently there was way more than just the one I showed you previously. Anyway, so I am connected. My compressor's running, my handheld's working. This is working. Let me see. And it's pretty quick. And I'm waiting till the compressor fills up so I can do the rod sensor calibration. And right now you see the little Bluetooth indicator that's on. It tells me how much air is in my tank. I'm at 196 psi. Let's go to the menu. And we're going to go to calibration, automatic calibration, warning, maximum tank pressure will be applied to your air springs in order to determine top of suspension travel. Damage may be caused to suspension without proper limiting means, dampers, limit straps, etc. Blah, 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 blah. Just make sure that your stuff is put together right. So let's go and do that. Vehicle must be on level ground. The wheels must be pointed straight ahead. Before proceeding, leave the vehicle running to power the compressors during this procedure. Warning, the system will automatically raise and lower your vehicle in the next procedure. Remove all obstructions and keep clear of the vehicle until the calibration process is complete. Begin calibration now. Okay, it says valve operation warning. Desired motion is not being seen from the height sensor after adjustment attempt. But it doesn't tell me which height sensor. So, info: check for valve wiring, mechanical failure, check for height sensor wiring, mechanical failure, go to system diagnostic. And it just crashed. So I'm going to check that out, and we'll go from there. All right, this is calibration attempt number 2. I corrected the issue, so we're going to start with the app. And I got the car running this time, so we don't drain batteries. All right, real quick. This is a small tutorial on your sensors. Now, what I did was use one sensor in the mock-up of both my front driver side, front passenger side, rear driver side, and rear passenger side. I use one sensor to mock up all of my location points. However, if you look at the instructions, and I think one of my biggest things is I went and just overcomplicated a lot of this stuff. So you can use the sensor in a whole bunch of different mounting options, whereas if you look here, you can mount your sensor that way, this way, this way, that way. But one of the key things is this piece here is the orientation of the sensor within the housing here. So you always want to keep this part, and that translates well on camera. The flat mark, you want to keep that always pointed away from where the connector goes. You mount your sensor this way, but you want your arm connected to your lower control arm or whatever it is you're trying to connect it to get your ride height. Then what you have to do is take this arm off and clock it to where this is pointed that way. Now, I'll give you an example. On the front of the car, for what I did, I have both my sensors are going to be mounted vertically. What I'm going to have to do is, and this is my passenger side, and it's mounted on the bracket. My sensor's mounted in this orientation with the connector pointed up. I have clocked this to where this is facing away from where the connector is. The arm comes out this way, this goes down and connected to my lower control arm. So as my lower control arm goes up and goes down, the sensor can read that value and send it back to the controller. It doesn't matter where or how you mount it, as long as you have this orientated properly. So this goes on the passenger side front. So if I'm looking at it standing from the back, my wheel is out this way. This is my lower control arm going this way. So as my control arm goes up, goes down, this sensor can read that and knows the orientation within itself. The same with my driver's side. My driver's side, it's going to be mounted up this way. This is on the driver's side, front left, same thing. So it's going to be going up and down that way. So if you follow me, you follow me. If not, get out the instructions and read it for yourself. All this does is gives the controller a value number, and I'm not sure how AccuAir does it. There are a couple of different other companies on the market. You got Air Max, you have Airlift. They all have some kind of version of this same thing, and they all basically do the same thing. But you know, you read the reviews, it's like Ford and Chevy, you know, these are greater than this one and the other one's greater than this one. So it just depends on what you want for your own personal preference. They all run about the same price, give or take a couple of $100. I actually got out of my car one time, I was out cruising, walked around the back, and I'm like, man, I'm lower on the right than I was on the left. I'm higher in the front than I was in the back. And you know, I don't know, I just kind of want that look when I'm riding. So I know without having to get out and look at it that my car is riding low like I want it, or riding high like I want it, or if I air it all out, air it back up, that the whole car is level and I'm not looking crazy coming down the street leaning to one side. And that's it. It actually returns just back to the screen when it's done. So all we have to do now is set the rod heights and go from there. I am Corporal Skagg, United States Marine Corps. I will be conducting this period of instruction on what E-Level fails to tell you in the instructions that come with your device in order to not fail the automatic calibration. I will be showing you what you need to do in order to pass your calibration on the very first try. In this period of instruction, I will get you through it and have your ride riding level. Please hold all questions until the end of this period of instructions. Are there any questions?
I have a question.
What's that?
I have a question.
Didn't I tell you to hold all questions till after the end of the instruction? On to the class. I'm sorry, man. I've sat through a lot of those in my years. Okay, during the first tutorial, I told you about the sensor and how this little mark had to be pointed away from the connector in order to properly read the up and down of your lower control arm, upper control arm, or wherever you decide to tie your sensor into. What they did not tell you is that in order to calibrate it properly, you have to make sure that this is level with the sensor right in the midway point of your suspension travel. Basically a crude drawing, and it's not to scale. I'm not Jason from Engineering Explained, and he has nice hair. But this is your sensor, this is your lower control arm, and this is sitting at the midway point between your lowest point, because this is going to go up when you drop your car, and the highest point, because this is going to go down when you raise your car. Okay? So what they didn't tell you, because I'm like, okay, why is it failing calibration? I actually had to go online and actually download the PDF with the full instructions on how to set this up. Because it's not in the guide. So what was happening with my car, and the reason that it failed, was that I had two sensors that at the midway point, the lower control arm was kind of here. And I know it's not a lot, and it only raises this by, you know, this much. However, the control ECU needs a common. So when it goes through the calibration, it drops the car all the way down. So your arm goes up, this sends in the voltage reading. I think it goes low when the sensor goes up. So it'll send in a voltage right around 3 volts. When the car is raised all the way up and your control arm goes down, it sends in a high voltage. Actually, I think it's millivolts, but somewhere around 14. And you can actually see all this on the app. It'll show you what your voltage levels are on each one of your sensors. So I'm racking my brain. I'm like, okay, all my sensors are working, because you can actually see it on the app. You can see that your sensors are moving. I had to go back, read the instructions, because we used to say in the Marine Corps, when all else fails, RTFM. Read the freaking manual. So what I had to do is go back, and luckily for me, all I had to do was kind of just tweak my sensor. I jacked my car up, set my my axle, my front end at the midway point between totally aired out and totally and all the way aired up. And once I did that, I just tweaked my sensor to where this arm of the sensor lined up and that little mark was pointing directly away from the connector. Well, that was just level. So did that, everything worked fine. And I'm not gonna lie, this calibration this actually the one that's on video is actually the second time I did it. I was trying to replicate what, to be honest, I wasn't gonna fail on camera. Once it's calibrated, it has 3 presets that are already programmed in. Preset 3 is all the way up, and it's as high as your car will go, or your truck, or what have you. 2 is the default preset. It's a lowered ride height, and it's actually not as low as I wanted it to be. And preset 1 is pretty much all the way aired out. So you have to go in and set them how you want them to be, because it's yours and you want to look cool. And know in your mind that as you're riding down the road that you're looking the way that you want to look. Corporal Skag, this is the end of this period of instruction. Carry on. One cool thing about the E-Level is that when you turn the key on, it automatically goes to preset number 2, which is your ride height. And that indicates that on the handheld, and if you have the app open, it does it as well. So as you can see, we started out, and as soon as I turned the key on, it went to ride height. Pretty cool. And to set your ride height, to me it's easier to do it on the handheld, and all you do on the handheld is you set your ride height where you want it. Say you want to set your highest ride height. You set that, press and hold number 3 till it starts blinking, and then it's set. You want your cruise height, a little bit lower height. Press and hold number 2, starts blinking, and then it's set. Same with number 1 and so on. These are the same on basically any controller. You press and hold this arrow down button, it'll air everything all out. This is front up, front down, front right, front left, rear up, rear down, rear right, rear left. So, same as any handheld controller. But I like it, it's illuminated. It's metal, so you can use like a phone, a cell phone type holder. I'll show you what I did on mine. This is actually my CB holder. And yes, this car did come with a CB and it works. So what I did was put a couple of magnets on it. It sits right there. And there's a USB plug. I can unplug it, throw it in my glove box, and nobody will ever know.